Hello everyone, I am a 27-year-old woman, and I found myself in the role of a guardian for my 10-year-old sister. This responsibility fell on my shoulders because our parents, who had never been inclined towards parental duties, made it abundantly clear from my childhood that they were not ready for the responsibilities of parenthood. My mother conceived me in the hopes that I would be a miracle fixer for their crumbling marriage, and my father, perhaps to avoid further disputes, went along with it. However, their plan backfired spectacularly, turning my life into a living nightmare. They consistently neglected me, both physically and emotionally, ignoring their obligations. Despite a few instances where teachers noticed marks on me, my parents brushed it off as mere clumsiness, preventing me from receiving the help I desperately needed. When I turned 11, my first therapist advised me to be submissive and try to work things out with my parents. Unfortunately, this approach proved futile. I had to change therapists multiple times before finding one who advocated for my mental peace, urging me to leave my toxic home environment. However, financial constraints made it impossible for me to leave until I turned 18. While I was working to save money, my mother manipulated and guilt-tripped me, labeling me as selfish for wanting to break free. By the time I was 16, I had made it clear that I was biding my time until I could escape. My parents eventually gave up on me, which meant losing their financial support, but also gaining freedom from their constant interference. When I was 17, my mother became pregnant at the age of 42. Amidst the chaos of the pregnancy, my parents were preoccupied with the new baby, so much so that they helped me move out quickly, eager to convert my room into a perfect nursery. Although this made my departure easier, it left me with mixed feelings, relief for escaping, yet a lingering sense of being replaceable. Despite these challenges, I endeavored to stay strong and moved out, determined to create a better future for myself. At the age of 18, life was genuinely wonderful. By the time I reached 20, I secured a job, earned a place on the dean's list, and could afford an apartment all to myself. It was a time of triumph and independence. But this blissful phase was about to shatter. One day, my parents arrived unannounced, accompanied by my younger sister. They handed her to me, explaining that she was more trouble than they could handle, and that I should be the one to care for her. I was caught off guard, and before I could fully grasp the situation, they left, leaving me holding my 3-year-old sister. In my state of confusion, I reached out to my friends, who had become my most significant support system over the past 3 years. Their advice was unanimous. It was better for my sister to be with me, as she could have a better life than I ever did. 3 of my friends rallied around us, essentially becoming surrogate parents for my sister. We all took turns looking after her and worked diligently to ensure she felt cherished and cared for. At one point, my sister genuinely believed she had 3 moms and 1 dad, which I found endearing, but I gently corrected her as she grew older. Throughout this time, my parents were off traveling and enjoying their lives, as evident from their social media posts. I'm relieved that my sister didn't experience the neglect I did, but when she turned 8, she started questioning why our parents never attended any of her events. I didn't want her to feel abandoned, so I told her that our parents were busy with their work, which made it challenging for them to visit us as frequently as they'd like. While she accepted this explanation, it was evident that she wasn't entirely satisfied with it. To address her concerns, I arranged therapy for her and reached out to our parents, urging them to visit whenever possible. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, such as the pandemic, they were unable to do so. That's why, just a week ago, on my 27th birthday, I extended an invitation to my parents. I wanted them to visit, and they did. However, their behavior shattered me. When they arrived, they acted as if everything was back to normal. My mom immediately began criticizing every aspect of my apartment, while my dad opened a bottle of whiskey and refused to engage in any conversation that didn't revolve around his thoughts or desires. My mom also tried to dictate changes to my room, and when my sister returned from her ballet class with one of my friends, my mom approached her for a hug. Surprisingly, my sister, who hadn't seen our parents in 7 years, pulled away and sought refuge behind my friend. My mom persisted, asking for a hug repeatedly. It was then that I stepped in, asking her to respect my sister's choice not to embrace her. In response, My mom slapped me across the face in front of my friend and sister. She launched into a tirade, belittling me and insinuating that I should be grateful for her motherhood and the care she provided because no one else would. Hearing her disrespectful words was like a trip back in time. I looked at my horrified sister, shielded by my friend, and I knew I had to stand up for myself. I informed my mom that she could leave if she couldn't respect my house rules, especially the one about respecting my sister's wishes. She scoffed and refused. I gave her 30 minutes to leave with her belongings, warning her that I would call the police if she didn't comply, especially given that everyone had witnessed her slapping me. She dared me to do it, so I did just that. I called the cops. The situation wasn't pleasant. My mom and dad both called me names, but my friends, sister, and others present thought I did the right thing. I'm torn between not wanting to be an a-hole and standing up for myself and the people I care about. I truly appreciate the overwhelming support from you all. I didn't mention it in my previous update, but I pressed charges against my mom for slapping me. The mark of her hand was visible on my cheek, and my friend and sister confirmed to the police that she had indeed slapped me. As a result, she will be taken to court, and we hope to resolve everything there. The court date is set for tomorrow, and I'm not quite sure how to proceed at this point. I never imagined I'd find myself in the position of having to document my mother's actions, but that's the reality I'm facing now. Hello, everyone. A few significant events have unfolded during the court proceedings. The judge ruled in my favor in the domestic violence case, a decision that brings me some relief. Additionally, the court was informed about the situation with my sister and suggested that I take over her legal guardianship. I hadn't considered this possibility before, but when the court proposed it, I thought it could be a great solution. I agreed, and 2 days ago, I officially became my sister's legal guardian. My friend mentioned that my sister was deeply affected by witnessing our mother's abusive behavior towards me. Despite her previous excitement about meeting our parents, seeing them mistreat me changed her perspective. Now, she no longer wishes to be with them. Honestly, my sister makes me feel more valued and appreciated than anyone else ever has. I firmly believe I did the right thing by standing up for myself, and I refuse to feel guilty for it. On another note, it's been 3 years since I last saw my ex-wife. We had been in a relationship for 7 years, starting as high school friends and then becoming lovers. Our bond was strong, but when I landed an internship at a prestigious law firm, my girlfriend insisted we get married immediately. I tried explaining that while I was earning enough to sustain us, waiting until I was on the payroll or earning a larger income would be more sensible. However, she was unwilling to wait, feeling that her youth was slipping away, and she wanted to be married to me as soon as possible. I had a hunch that one of the primary reasons she wanted to get married was the social pressure surrounding us. Her friends and cousins were vocal about their disapproval of our decision to delay marriage. Eventually, I relented, believing that with a bit more effort, I could strike a balance. This way, I could make her happy while also securing a financially stable future. So we got married when I was just shy of 28. My wife was overjoyed that we were finally married, and she no longer doubted my affection for her, having finally put a ring on it. Our wedding was quite extravagant, and my wife didn't want to compromise on any of her plans. She also limited our parents' financial contributions to a certain amount, with 60% of the costs covered by us and the remaining 40% by our parents. Within the portion we paid for, I covered about 75% of it. Understandably, it would take some time for my finances to recover from this significant expenditure, and I estimated it would take around 5 years. However, I had faith in my ability to do so. Fortunately, about 2 months after the wedding, I received a remarkable job opportunity. It required me to relocate out of state for 6 to 9 months, but it promised a substantial increase in income, around 300 times my current salary. I was ecstatic about the prospect, shared the news with my wife, and received her enthusiastic approval. One of the things I cherished most in our relationship was our mutual desire to see each other succeed in our respective fields. Her encouragement was both expected and deeply appreciated. During the first 2 months of my new job, I received frequent calls, some of which I couldn't answer due to my busy schedule and time zone differences. This occasionally led to arguments, as my partner felt I wasn't focusing enough on our relationship. However, I tried my best to make her feel loved and appreciated, doing everything I could from my new location, including making regular phone calls. I made every effort to call her whenever I could, and on the occasions I couldn't, I tried my best to compensate for it later. Our relationship improved slightly during this period, but it was short-lived. By the 4th month of my absence, my wife's interest in calling dwindled. She claimed to have found hobbies that kept her occupied and tired, leading to fewer conversations. I trusted her explanation at the time, unaware that her hobbies involved other men. But we'll get to that shortly. Upon completing my work, it was our first anniversary. Eager to surprise her, I returned home, hoping to find my wife overjoyed at my return. Instead, I walked in on her being intimate with 2 men in our bed. As they were engrossed in their activities, they didn't notice me standing in the doorway. In that moment, I realized I no longer wanted to share a home with her. I called my boss, who appreciated my work and offered me another 9-month contract. I left the house without explaining much to her. Strangely, when she asked if I was coming back, she seemed almost relieved. I couldn't comprehend her reaction. I dealt with the betrayal and the pain on my own until the 3rd month of my new contract. By then, we had been living separately for over 6 months. I filed for a divorce, and she surprisingly signed the papers without much resistance. She moved out soon after, and I decided to continue with my traveling work. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm back in my city. I achieved the financial goal I set for myself, but I realized constant travel wasn't for me. I discovered my ex-wife had moved on and married another lawyer from a rival firm, supposedly because he earned more than I did and because I was allegedly emotionally abusive. I understood the financial aspect, but I couldn't fathom the accusation of emotional abuse. I felt hurt, yet I tried not to let it consume me. She hadn't spoken to me for years, even when we encountered each other at the courthouse for the last time. However, fate intervened when one of my clients sought my representation during his divorce. He believed the division of assets was unfair, and upon researching the case, I discovered he was right. Additionally, my ex-wife's new partner was representing the client's wife, creating a conflict of interest. As I delved into the evidence and conducted research, I received a call from a familiar number. It was my ex-wife. She was hysterical, explaining that she had discovered her husband's infidelity with a client. An improper relationship between a lawyer and a client could lead to the lawyer's disbarment. I asked her why she thought I could help her in this situation. She claimed she knew I wasn't in the States, a blatant lie, and suggested that due to my influential parents, I might be able to prevent her partner from getting disbarred. This was the same woman who had treated me as if I were invisible, someone who had disregarded me entirely. Suddenly, she wanted my help with something so crucial. I found her request dubious, to say the least. Anticipating a legal battle against him, I hired a private investigator to verify my ex-wife's claims. What I discovered was even juicier. He was not only cheating on my ex-wife, but with my client's soon-to-be ex-wife. It was too significant to ignore, so I took action. I presented a better settlement to the court, revealing the lawyer-client affair. I informed the Bar Association about their inappropriate relationship, using my boss as a reference. I shared this situation with my friends, and most of them thought I was wrong for reporting his misconduct. They accused me of meddling when I should have minded my own business. I'm curious if you all share their perspective. Do you believe I'm in the wrong? And if so, why? I appreciate your kind words. They mean a lot. Generally, I don't let others' opinions affect me, given my profession. Thick skin is a requirement in my line of work. However, when friends cast doubt on my actions, it does make me question myself. Your support and shared experiences are incredibly reassuring. Recently, I learned that my ex-wife's partner was disbarred, leaving him without a source of income. Considering my ex-wife's obsession with brand names, this situation won't sustain her lifestyle. I can't say I feel guilty about it. My ex-wife finally figured out my involvement and called me, berating me for my actions. In her eyes, I should have respected her partner and refrained from filing a complaint. She accused me of twisting her words to win a trivial case. I disagreed but listened to her rant and promptly blocked her. Frankly, I'm content being out of touch with her. Diego, I believe I'd have made the same choice, or perhaps even a more severe one. You had evidence vital to your case, and you used it. I don't see that as unethical. You did minimal harm to her, dude. She's just being overly dramatic. Your friends aren't being fair if they think protecting a cheater is more critical than your case. You did the right thing. Her partner deserved to be reported. He shouldn't be in a profession where he can't maintain proper boundaries and etiquette. Thank you for tuning in today, everyone. If you have your own story to share, please email us using the address provided in the description below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It greatly supports the channel. We'll catch you in the next episode.